Hello, this is Aaron, your local real estate agent in Northern California. Today, I had some interesting videos and articles I wanted to share with you and to give my feedback on. The real estate market is just churning right now. There's a lot of volatility in the market and there's a lot of changes happening. So that does make it quite hard and interesting to get a house. But I will say, for those who are prepared, there are deals to be had. All right, so let's just dive in. The first one here is pretty interesting. If you don't know, fire insurance and home insurance in general has been quite tricky, actually. They've doubled some people's insurance, and every time there's a big fire, people are not sure if they're going to get paid out. So in this first one, we can see that a whole bunch of insurance policies have been dropped.
Another insurance company dropping California policies. The latest is Liberty Mutual, added to the list that includes Allstate, State Farm, Farmers, and Travelers as companies that are either dropping policies or raising rates. Liberty Mutual Fire Insurance Company will not renew fire policies for 17,000 customers.
Yeah, for 7 on your side, ABC 7 News reporter Suzanne Font is here with a look at what that means if you're one of those customers. Suzanne, it's a real predicament.
It really is. Dan Alma, dwelling fire insurance covers fire damage to the structure of the home, not the stuff inside the home. And that is the type of policy that's not being renewed. It's something landlords or vacation homeowners often count on. Critics say the insurance industry is making big changes more often, and that's leaving more homeowners in limbo.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Larry Langford of West Sacramento is losing his home insurance in about 2 weeks. Liberty Mutual Insurance decided not to renew
I mean, the real thing is we've got to get some sort of affordable insurance here in California. There's the FAIR plan, but that's the last resort, and honestly, it's just very expensive. So we've got to change something.
Langford's policy. Why? It has nothing to do with wildfire risks. Instead, it's because
I had a debris splattered yard, as well as having oak trees on, over, or in connection with my house.
That's an entirely different reason than why Liberty Mutual is not renewing the policy of 17,000 California policyholders. According to a Liberty Mutual Group spokesman, those non-renewals of dwelling fire policies began last fall. The company explained that it's, quote, retiring the antiquated technology it uses to manage the dwelling fire policies.
And that's going to be a very hard message for consumers to understand. All they know is I'm losing my insurance.
Yeah, that sounds like some fancy lingo for we're not charging you enough. And, their old and antiquated systems might be a little better if they charge more. So, that's kind of that's a line to appease people right there.
And I didn't do anything wrong.
In a statement, Liberty Mutual said, quote, the decision to stop writing this product line is not specific to California and not related to fire risk. Critics say more insurance companies seem to be looking for any excuse to drop policyholders.
It just saddens me that these companies are just fleeing from California for different reasons.
This is all about business for them.
Amy Bach is a homeowner insurance consumer advocate and executive director of United Policyholders. She said the Department of Insurance struck a deal with insurance companies. Companies can use new technology to determine the fire risk of homes. Insurance companies can then set rates based upon that information.
The new technology that insurance companies are using, those aerial drones, the aerial images that drones are giving them, AI, data mining, risk scoring systems. Insurers are making business decisions because they are for-profit companies.
Bach says if you lose your insurance...
Interestingly enough, usually technology is actually deflationary. So if you can go and use drones and AI and other methods to assess the fire risk, well, that's going to identify the high areas and the low areas. We want to presume that this new method involving drones and AI is going to be more efficient than the previous method. So what's going on here? I mean, either the company is getting squeezed and they just have to raise rates for their own reasons, or the actual amount of insurance is something that can go up and down. Right? So if we can identify areas that are low risk, why aren't they dropping rates in those areas. We've never heard of anyone's rate going down. You know, if they said, oh, these 43% are in high risk areas and the other 57% are in low risk areas, we need to then balance the total amount of money coming in because we're doing more payouts to this area, then it seems like a logical thing. But all you ever hear is that they drop policies or raise rates. To me, that doesn't really show that they're utilizing the technology fully correctly.
You know, getting informed is number one. Understanding, you know, that you have 75 days from the time your insurer, you know, tells you they're non-renewing to find a new policy.
And according to a company spokesperson, Liberty Mutual Group says it's still offering dwelling fire insurance coverage in California under the Safeco insurance brand. Now, the latest announcement affects about 1% of Liberty Mutual's total personal insurance policies in California. In the studio, Suzanne Fawn,
1%, 17,000. So what is that? 1.7 million. So that's interesting. You know, homeowners insurance, fire insurance, it's all going up, up, up. And on top of that, so here's a little bit, you know, it's a bit of a chicken and an egg thing. So as house prices go up, then the insurance that it takes to cover it goes up as well. So really the best way to bring down insurance is to bring down housing prices. This next article here, or little video, I just thought was astounding. Blackstone raised rents double the market average in San Diego. So wait a second, maybe Blackstone is helping to push up all these different all the home prices, and then as a result it takes more insurance to cover that. Maybe Blackstone should start paying some of the insurance costs. Let's see what's going on here.
A new report finds that the Wall Street company Blackstone owns more than 60 apartment buildings here in San Diego County. Welcome to the floor.
60.
I'm Marcella
That's
Lee,
a lot.
in today
That's
for
a
Heather
lot.
Myers.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. That report also says that in the past 3 years, rents in those buildings have gone up nearly double the market average. CBS 8's Kelly Hessedall joins us live from National City.
Just to clarify there, he said double the market average. So that doesn't mean that rents have doubled. That means that they're increasing twice as fast as the market average.
With what Blackstone has to say about this, and she also...
And just as a note, in California, you can raise rents 10% a year. So most renters, or landlords, excuse me, are not doing that. But Blackstone may be approaching that number. Let's see what's going on.
To tenants at some of those properties. Kelly?
That's right, and one of those Blackstone-owned properties is here in National City behind me along B Avenue. Now, I talked to several people who live here who all confirmed that rent here has gone up. One woman I spoke to says she doesn't understand why a company that has so much money would do this to people who are barely getting by.
Profits.
Increasing our rent when you know we're not going to make it. Like, where are we going to go? To the streets? Because that's where they're going to end up here. Then they wonder why there's a lot of homeless. Because the bills here, the rent, just the rent alone is just too much for one person.
You know, I'm just going to say this, and I just thought of this. Now, it said they own 50 different apartments, which, you know, there's a lot of houses down there. But I'm just going to say, if you control a large percentage of the market in something, and then you take actions that would, for example, cause people to be homeless, I think you should be culpable for that.
And that was Veronica Garcia. Her father is disabled. He lives at this complex, and she says the stress of the bills is taking a toll on him. Now, that new report titled Helter Shelter, put together by the Private Equity Stakeholder Project, a nonprofit watchdog organization that studies the impact of the private equity
That's pretty
industry
good,
on
actually.
communities, found that Blackstone owns 60 properties in the county. We do have a map showing exactly where they are. They are in different neighborhoods. We're talking close to 6,000 units. The report found that rent for new tenants increased an average of 38%. In some buildings, it was even higher. Now, to be clear, Blackstone is not doing anything illegal by raising rent, but because the law only allows rent to go up so much for existing tenants, the author of the report, Jordan Ash, says it gives the company an incentive to evict people and raise
Yeah, so that's basically the game, is you can only raise it X amount for a current tenant, but let's just say you're charging $3,000 a month and then you evict that tenant, it's fair game after that. I believe there are some laws that are against this to try to prevent this price gouging, but in general, that's the game that landlords do. And here's another trick that people will do: is they will raise rent to, let's just say it's from 3 to 4,000, but they will actually give 1 month free so that you can have that high number so you can continue to increase rents. So realistically, your rent is going to be less than that 12-month period, but it allows them to raise the rents even more. So it's something to watch out for if you get into a rental situation and they say, oh, you know what, the last month is free. Well, that's for a reason. It's not out of the goodness of their hearts. All right, let's continue.
Raise the rent for new tenants, and he says that's what's happening. So you're going to hear from him first, and then from Celeste Johnson, a member of Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment. She lives in a Blackstone-owned property.
Definitely needs to be more regulation. I mean, the bottom line is that people need a place to live. We believe that people have a right to housing, and while companies may have a right to also to make money, it shouldn't be in a way that prevents people from being able to have a place to live.
It's sad, it's scary to think that people have the power to lower and raise the rent and push people in and out, to have that power over people.
Well, I don't know that that's going to be the real problem. Like, I get her concerns, but I think it's okay to raise and lower rent. What we really got to do here, and I am working on a video of this, is address the actual causes of why there's so few houses. If there was more houses, you could just move out and say, hey, Blackstone, we don't really care about you raising rent. I'm going to go live somewhere else. So be sure to tune back in for that video. I'm going to reveal the real reason that we have so few houses in California, and it's not what you think.
It leaves a knot inside of you.
Jeez.
And a spokesperson for Blackstone sent us a statement this afternoon that it reads in part, quote, the reality is that average rents at these San Diego communities are 20% below the San Diego market average. Resident review scores have increased approximately 40% under our ownership, and resident retention rates are significantly higher than the national average. So back out here live, the statement goes on to say
so
that
they're saying
Blackstone
that's not
has
us. It's not us.
$100 million in improving living conditions for people, and it's conducted over 44,000 repairs. They also point out that during the pandemic, Blackstone did not evict anyone for 2.5 years.
Okay. Okay, good for them. Good for them.
You know, renters say they realize Blackstone isn't doing anything illegal, but there is a homeless crisis. There's not enough affordable housing. What else did the tenants you spoke with tell you about what they want?
Well, Celeste, the woman that you heard from second there, she told me that she's working 2 jobs just to make ends meet, and that she's just fearing that day when she will not be able to afford to live in her apartment any longer. I talked to other people off camera who told me the same thing. They say, you know, they love San Diego, they love living in the city, but everything is going up. Everything is so expensive here that they just can't afford to live here anymore.
It's one of the
You can sell this $5 spatula on.
All right. Well, that was interesting. Housing prices are going up. And you know what? It's not just housing. Here's the next article that show PG&E rates are going up as well. So it's getting dropped by insurance. The housing prices are high. And the PG&E is going up. So right now is just a tough time.
You have contacted ABC 10 about high PG&E bills. Some say the bills have more than doubled in just the last year. And now some families say they're being forced to choose between food and power.
Today, PG&E customers held a rally at the Capitol protesting their high bills. ABC 10's Devin Truby explains what they're demanding.
Governor, enough is enough. Stop PG&E.
A small group of protesters making sure their voices are loud. They're protesting PG&E's high rate. Kelly Smith driving from Grass Valley to the Capitol.
People are losing things and having to choose between food or electricity.
Smith says
PG&E is expensive around here, and we'll see what they say. There's actually a whole controversy, let's say, around PG&E and not investing back into the infrastructure and them getting bailed out. We'll see exactly how far they go into this on that, but know that it is definitely an issue.
in 2021, when she bought her home, her electricity bill for her house with a pool was $220 a month. This summer, it's more than tripled.
Turning off the pool, turning off the spa, keeping the air set at 85 during the heat wave, my bill was upward of $800. My bill.
$800. I don't know if you guys remember, but that's Enron crisis levels of energy. Oh my God, that is terrible. Wow.
This last month.
And also, don't quote me on this, but I believe California has some of the highest levels of renewables and the highest prices. So are those connected? A little beyond me to say definitively, but I've heard some people make some pretty good arguments for that.
Or after that was $680, and that is without the air running. We are trying so many conservation methods in our own home, and nothing is working. I mean, it's almost sitting in the dark.
Erica Hall is one of the viewers who emailed ABC 10 asking for help. The single mom says she saw her bill jump from $200 a month to $800. She says she's even had PG&E check her meter since her usage is about the same.
When I go grocery shopping, I can't buy as much food as I could before, because my bill's so much higher. This year, I really didn't get to do back to school for my kids. I basically got backpacks.
You know, that's $6,000 to $10,000 a year. You might as well go buy a generator and fill it up with gas at that point. Like, that is ridiculous. So this is just the cost of living. I mean, if your insurance is $10,000 a year and your taxes are $15,000 to $20,000 a year, and now your PG&E bill is $6,000 to $10,000 a year, it shows you about homeownership in California. Wow, really? You got to ride the storm in this one and hope that they turn things around.
Because the bill's taking up a lot of my income right now.
Outside the Capitol, protesters were asking for a rate reduction and for voters to appoint members of CPUC.
Be very careful about who they're voting for and see if PG&E is contributing into their campaigns.
Well, take a look. PG&E responded today saying, quote, "We know many of our customers are frustrated with higher costs of living, including energy bills. We're working hard to stabilize customer bills and remain committed to supporting our customers to help them lower their energy usage and..."
Okay, so here's an idea. Now, I'm not super into redistribution or telling companies what to do, but I just came up with an idea. How about this? If the customer's bill goes up by more than 50% in a year, since it's a public utility, PG&E, how about this? They can't do dividends on their stock. How about they're not allowed to, or how about they have to take out bonuses for the company? There should be some balance here, some sort of checks that make sure that, or decentivize PG&E from allowing people's power to go up a bill 300%. It went from $200 to $800. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So nice statement here, but if I was the CEO of PG&E, I would be like, okay, no more dividends, no more bonuses. The top 10% of people are going to take a pay cut. Do something other than release a statement. So this is just a little concerning
PG&E
to me.
offers a wide range of financial assistance programs to help customers with their bills, including programs for energy efficiency rebate.
Energy efficiency rebate. So there you go. Just another interesting article. I feel like everyone's just getting hammered right now in the real estate market. Okay, so this was actually kind of interesting here. In San Francisco, in the Tenderloin, they put a curfew on the Tenderloin businesses. Let's see if it's businesses or everyone just in general. But, one thing that happens is there's a spiraling effect. Crime happens, businesses move out, there's less tax money. That means there's less money to pump back into helping people, affordability programs, and so forth. So here's just something I thought was a little more interesting. Let's see how positive it ends up being.
Always live. ABC 7 News starts right now.
And we have seen less crime, so to speak, less gunshots.
If you, just as a note, if you haven't been to San Francisco, the Tenderloin is anything but tender. I mean, that's a Dave Chappelle joke. The Tenderloin is, let's just say it's not very pleasant during the day and especially during the night. I've seen some horrible things in the Tenderloin just passing by.
Reported crime, I would say.
Some say they're already seeing an improvement 1 month after a curfew went into effect in San Francisco's Tenderloin district. Good evening, I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Thanks for joining us. The curfew was implemented in the hopes of reducing crime and open-air drug markets.
But it's only in effect for this part of the Tenderloin, shaded in red from midnight to 5 a.m.
ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena has been following this story and joins us live in the newsroom with first data points on this. Luz.
Dan and Emma, we went to the Tenderloin asking, is the curfew working? And it depends on whom you ask. This is a 2-year pilot program, and the first month is already showing some progress. But not everyone agrees the curfew should exist at all. For the last 7 years, Kathy Vaughn has called San Francisco's Tenderloin home. She walks these sidewalks on a daily basis and says there was a clear shift about 4 years ago, leading to a change in her daily routine.
I put myself on lockdown at 7 p.m. During the wintertime, I put it at 5.
She literally is still on COVID lockdown because of the crime in the Tenderloin. Now, I don't know what they did to address the crime here, to put more officers there, but if this lady has to stay inside, you probably need to do more policing work.
Because I don't feel safe out at night.
In June, San Francisco's Mayor London Breed and Board of Supervisors approved a plan that banned businesses, except restaurants and bars, from staying open between midnight and 5 a.m. It's been about a month, and Kathy's noticing the change.
So it's literally just restaurants and bars, but people are allowed to walk around. I mean, I think it should be the opposite. How about drug dealers can't hang out there, or a bunch of, no loitering on the streets after a certain hour, instead of closing everything else, so that way the only people there are going to be the undesirable aspects of this neighborhood. Backwards, in my opinion.
It's like a little bit at a time.
The Tenderloin Housing Clinic pushed for this curfew, and their preliminary data points show the areas between O'Farrell and McAllister and Polk to Jones, where the curfew is enforced, are doing better.
It has been very successful, I would say, for a month, because we have seen less of congregation in various parts of Tenderloin and in the night, because this legislation is impacted in the night, and we have seen less crime, so to speak, less gunshots.
That's good.
Our ABC 7 News data team looked into incident reports from midnight to 5 a.m. in the Tenderloin Police District, which includes where the curfew is being enforced. We noticed a drop in incident reports for the month of August so far, compared to prior months before the curfew was enacted. Despite this glimpse of progress, businesses that have had to close by midnight say they're suffering.
We used to close at maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and now they're making us close at 12. We don't even let customers in anymore. Like, they come knock on the door and we tell them it's closing time. What's going on in the streets, what's going on in stores and family business.
So they're punishing the businesses, essentially, and then crime's lowering as a result. Yeah, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg here. I'm not sure about this.
Business shouldn't be affected.
Other residents want police to crack down harder on people selling drugs on
there we
sidewalks
go.
and not
There's
just
an idea.
businesses.
There's still people out here selling drugs and selling their illegal stolen goods, right? So it's not really all businesses are closed during the curfew, is it?
And for every hour a store remains open during the curfew hours, the city can fine them up to $1,000. Businesses like the smoke shop say they feel like collateral damage as the city looks for ways to improve an issue that is impacting the neighborhood outside of these stores. In the newsroom, Luz Pena, ABC 7 News.
Wow. So I just found that interesting. And, at the end, they said exactly what I did there. How about you go after the people causing the problem instead of the businesses? Again, this is all beyond my means. I'm not here to be a public policy expert, but in the end, all of this does affect the housing market around here. And, this next video here is all about that. People are leaving big cities. There's an exodus, and they're moving to rural areas for exactly these types of reasons. High PG&E rates, high rents, lots of crime. So let's just go ahead and check this out as well.
Crime is also a driving factor when it comes to a pretty significant population shift. This one involving families. Our Kenny Choi on the numbers that show people packing up and moving to big cities and moving from big cities for safety.
On the corner of Buchanan and Filbert in San Francisco's Cow Hollow neighborhood, a scene begins to unfold as a mentally unstable man declothes himself after sifting and spreading trash around him. Longtime residents are at an inflection point.
I hope there's some changes, but more and more people they've had enough of it. It's unfortunate, but it's also intolerable at times.
Residents say it's mental health crises, violent outbursts, indecent and inappropriate public behavior by the unhoused that's driving young families out.
We started feeling like we needed to be in an area that we felt more secure.
Oliver Ascarate and his family moved out of Los Angeles for...
Just a quick note, I remember I was in San Francisco and there was a playground and it said all adults must be accompanied by children. So just kind of shows you what's going on.
Years ago, growing weary of city life. A concern for safety is partly why.
I was a little bit more scared at the time to go on walks with my kids, and even in a stroller just around our neighborhood at the time.
Packing and moving out of cities continues at an historic rate. Wow. San Francisco's under 5 population has dropped by 15% since the start of the pandemic. LA County right behind them at 14%, according to U.S. Census numbers.
It's really the
and that makes sense. San Francisco had people just piling into it for decades and decades, trying to chase all of that Silicon Valley money. And, now it has definitely changed. So it's not that San Francisco is going to be the worst place to live or one of these big cities. There's still areas that are really nice. And my friend, he had a good point because I was complaining to him about this. He said, I've never been in a situation that I can't just walk away from. So, there's a bunch of stuff that's pretty sketchy and there is dangerous stuff. It depends where you live. It depends on your lifestyle and a lot of those types of things. You can still probably have a beautiful life in San Francisco. On the macro level, and how I think about this in real estate is, if I was going to be an investor trying to, let's just say, buy a place and rent it out to a bunch of people, I would just kind of double check my numbers and think about where things are going over the next X number of years, because probably we're going to see a higher pressure on the housing market outside of these cities. And we already have. In where I'm at in Sonoma County, we saw a huge influx of people during the pandemic. Basically, it went Marin, and then it went up to Sonoma. A lot of those cheap houses were bought, and then it spread over to Lake County and towards Guerneville and up to Ukiah. So really what this does is the housing market here, and the simple truth is we need 4 million new houses here. And so there's always going to be an upward demand on housing around here. It depends where it's going to be. And, obviously San Francisco is pretty much filled up when it comes to building. So we're just going to see an increase of new units and people moving to more rural areas.
High-priced metros on the east and west coasts that are feeling this the most and that families are leaving from the fastest.
Connor O'Brien is a research and policy analyst at the Economic Innovation Group, a bipartisan D.C. think tank which spearheaded a recent analysis.
The country is aging as people are having fewer kids. but that's happening much faster in major cities than in the rest of the country.
The decision to leave is nuanced. For the Azcarates, skyrocketing housing prices also became a major deciding factor.
We're getting our rent raised incrementally, and it was just becoming more and more and more and more.
Residential permitting in Los Angeles plummeted by nearly 20% in the first half of this year. As of May.
Hey, here's an idea. How about we just issue, I'm just making it up, 1 million free permits, okay? That's what California needs. We got to get serious about the housing stuff. So go ahead and call somebody who could make these changes. This is beyond my ability. I'm just telling you right now, we need 1 million permits in the next 2 years here. And I'll show you what they're trying to do and if that's going to be enough.
The city of San Francisco has permitted only 108 units of housing, which policy experts describe as economic suicide.
One building, I don't know, let's just say a 20-story building basically is 108 units. One apartment complex is basically what they've permitted in San Francisco. They need a lot more. They need 10 times, 50, 100 times that amount.
By moving farther away from the city center, Azcarate has found cheaper housing and more for his family.
Having them being in a place that it has a better balance of nature and urban is the right mix for us.
It's why they're not moving back into the city. They're part of the mass exodus of young families.
Data shows birth rates are also declining faster in large urban counties than anywhere else.
So birth rates are declining. I mean, obviously, when it's hard to find a place that's big enough, then you don't really want to have kids. So, okay, so I was talking about this. There's basically, we need more homes. And here where I'm at in Santa Rosa, we'll add 4,700 new homes over 8 years. So, that's going to be 500 houses and change every year. So at least that's one house a day, theoretically, that will be built here. So, let's just read a little bit here. Santa Rosa experienced a housing boom in the past few years, despite challenges brought on by wildfires and the pandemic. But how does this keep momentum going? A new housing blueprint the City Council will consider on Tuesday is meant to sustain the housing production over the next 8 years. So I'll tell you, in Santa Rosa, there is no shortage of land. We have a ton of farmland, we have a ton of open land, we have a ton of grapes around here. So I think we should be trying to build, there's 200,000 houses in Sonoma County. We should probably be trying to build 20 or 40,000 houses over the next 5 years. This isn't even going to cover it. 500 houses a year is absolutely nothing. In Santa Rosa here, there's a few deals actually for around 500,000. Most of the houses are going to be around 700,000, $700,000 to $800,000. If we could bring that back down to 5, 6, or even 6, 7, I think that we're going to need to have a huge influx of housing. Okay, so this next article I thought was just insane. So, no smoking in your own home. City orders residents. So this will be applied to people who live in apartment blocks. So it's not your single family residence home, but it is going to be for balconies, which I can understand, and inside your own home. So if you're smoking a lot and the smoke goes through the roof to the neighbor's floor, which I have heard of happening actually, that's a big deal. If you're just smoking in your own home, if you want to vape, go for it. I get it. It's a big problem. But when California has all of these other issues and then they start to intrude upon people's privacy and rights within their own home, then we start to have major, major concerns. People are just getting squeezed from all areas. Okay, so this is interesting. Usually interest rates and home sales and prices are inversely correlated. And so, the Federal Reserve has indicated that they're going to be lowering rates in September. And as a result, rates have come down, partly just because there hasn't been that many mortgage applications. But as you can see here, this blue line, it kind of peaked in August of 2023, and then it went down. We would expect to see more houses being bought as that line goes down. Well, guess what? It has barely ticked up. And what this shows is that there's a number of other ways in which people are getting squeezed. So, for example, if you would like to buy a house and the mortgage rate goes down by, let's just say 1%, and it brings your mortgage from $4,500 to $3,800, wow, that's great. That'll help some people afford houses. But if at the same time your insurance and your electricity go up by that amount, you're right back where you started. So what happens is it puts a lot of people on a treadmill here from all the other high costs of living. So really, when they want to increase the amount of people into houses, they not only have to offset the increased price of houses, they also have to offset the increased cost of living. So I got a couple of other videos here, but I think we're getting pretty long, so I'm just going to call it on that. And this is actually pretty interesting, and it's why the U.S. can't build homes fast enough. And I'm just going to break this down for you real quick. I'm making a whole video about this. I mentioned it before. Be sure to tune back in next week, because the real reason why we can't build houses fast enough, there's a couple of reasons, but the biggest one is there's no available land. Notice how I say available. I didn't say there's no land. There's no available land. There's a few things that are going to contribute to that, and some of those are going to be permitting. There's going to be also, well, I don't want to give it away too much, but let's just say that there are major landowners that are preventing people from being able to build on land. And I'm going to address that in next week's video. So as always, hey, hang in there. This is a crazy time. One of the things that they say that gives me hope in this is the cure for high prices is high prices, and the cure for low prices is low prices. And what that really means is, yeah, things are very hard right now in the housing market. That's no lie. All of these factors we just went over, insurance, PG&E, high rent prices, crime, all of these different things make it very, very hard to get into a house. But something will have to give. This type of situation cannot continue indefinitely. What this does mean is that people who, for example, can pay cash are going to have a significant advantage over people who have to use loans. And people who prepare themselves for when prices come back down are going to be the ones who benefit the most. There's this magic moment when housing prices comes down, but everybody hasn't jumped into the frenzy yet. So during COVID, there was 30 offers on almost every house, and what that did is that pushed houses up. We were bidding on some houses in the city with some clients. It was a $2.2 million house. We bid $400,000 over asking, and we're outbid by $300,000. So go ahead and do the math on that. That is a huge jump. So housing prices are very high right now. They will come down, and then there will be a flood of people trying to get those new houses, and that will shove housing prices up. So what I recommend right now is pay off your debt, stack some cash, figure out that pre-approval letter from your mortgage broker, and be ready for when the housing market shifts, because something will have to shift. And if it doesn't shift here, that means that there will just be more opportunities somewhere else.